Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Villa Park City Council. I hereby call the meeting to order. Steve, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Pitts.
Here.
Councilwoman Miles.
Present.
Councilman Wu. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Here.
Mayor Rossini.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Today, I will ask Councilman Wu to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please both stand. Put your right hand over your hearts, facing the flag. Ready, begin.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Villa Park City Council and staff welcome you to this meeting, and we encourage your participation. If you wish to address the City Council, please complete and submit a speaker card to the City Clerk. Speaker cards can be found at the entrance to the City Council chambers. Speakers will be called individually during the public comment section of the item they wish to speak on. Speakers will be limited to a time period of 5 minutes. Speakers were also able to submit comments in writing by 3 p.m. today. Those comments will be read aloud during the public comment section of the item. What's next? Let's move on to presentations. I think we've got a guest from the Second Harvest Food Bank. It's Hunger Action Month. Diana, would you like to come forward and say a few words? Okay.
Assume this is on. Well, hello. My name is Diane Buca, and I'm an ambassador at the Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County. I'm here today on behalf of the Orange County Hunger Alliance, which is a collaboration among 8 anti-hunger organizations in Orange County. Together, we are committed to reducing food waste, ending poverty and hunger, providing dignified, equitable, and consistent access to the healthiest food possible for the most vulnerable among us. I'd like to thank you, the City Council, the City of Villa Park, for recognizing September as Hunger Action Month and raising awareness of hunger and food insecurity in your city and actually throughout the county. I believe every city in Orange County is participating and has accepted our invitation for this proclamation, which is a great statement about the cities in our county. Despite living in this robust, beautiful county, it's remarkable to know that over 330,000 individuals do have to struggle with food insecurity, including over 85,000 children. In the first half of this year alone, Second Harvest Food Bank and Orange County Food Bank together have collectively distributed over 29 million pounds of food through their network of food partners. We distribute through food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, senior centers, schools, colleges, universities, and other community organizations throughout Orange County. You know, I get asked this question a lot. I forgot to mention that one of the main, there's many different ways that we gather the resources that we share. Not only do we have a farm that we grow abundant food, because we're very committed to distributing nutritious food, but also we want to minimize food waste. We coordinate with other organizations to do food rescue. So, for example, from grocery stores, restaurants, that kind of thing, so that there's a very sophisticated channel of distribution so that it is distributed fresh and wholesome, and it definitely minimizes the waste from those sources. So in September, we're asking everyone to join the movement to end food insecurity. Your voice, action, and commitment will help ensure every community has the food they need to thrive. For those who want to get involved during Hunger Action Month, we invite everyone to visit feedoc.org/Hunger Action Month. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you. If you would just stand by, we have a proclamation we'd like to provide to you, and have City Council come up and maybe take a photo if that would be acceptable to you. Okay.
What are we going to do with?
Sorry. Fly solo on this one.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Where do you want? Better photobomb us.
Sorry, Nicole. Next up, we're going to have a presentation by the Villa Park Library. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for inviting me. September is almost over, and we were busy with 2 back-to-school events and an author event this past Saturday, and we're looking forward to October now. So for October, we have started just in time for Hispanic Heritage Month, a bilingual Spanish story time, and that is on Wednesdays at 3:30. And we're hoping many people can join us. If you don't speak Spanish, that's okay. Come and learn. Learn some new words and meet some new friends. We have, starting on October 5th, the In-N-Out Burger cover-to-cover reading program, and that will run October 5th through November 16th. In-N-Out Burger is such a wonderful community partner. They do this with all the public libraries, and it's for ages 4 through 12. And they read, and they can track this by the number of books they read or by the time they read. And for 3 different times, they can earn a gift card for a free burger or cheeseburger. And it's extremely popular, as is In-N-Out. We have our big Halloween program before you're having the Halloween Fest. Our program is on Monday, October 21st at 3:30 p.m., and we are having a Halloween glow-in-the-dark dance party in the room here, so I apologize to City. It will probably get quite noisy in here, and we are having glow-in-the-dark elements for the kids to wear, necklaces and bracelets, and we'll be playing kid-appropriate Halloween music, and it should be a lot of fun in here. We have our regular story times on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And we have our book chat for grown-ups on the first Monday of the month. And October's pick is a spooky title, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's a classic in terror. And we'll dim the lights in here in the room to get in the mood for this spooky tale. And be sure to visit ocpl.org for system programs and for author events happening at other branches. I just saw today that best-selling author Christopher Paolini from the Aragon series was just booked for the same day that we're having our glow-in-the-dark dance party, but it's at one of our close-by branches. So please do check out our website, and every card holder should be receiving our email bulletin. It's a weekly bulletin called The Check-In. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Colleagues, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate you. Next up, Orange County Sheriff's Department. Captain.
Good evening. Once again, a very good month in VP. 261 total calls for service. Majority of that is proactive by our deputies. Again, the property crimes are all basically crimes of opportunity. E-bikes being left out, vehicles being left unlocked. The one thing that it doesn't just stand out here, it stands out everywhere that we patrol because it really knows no boundaries, which is fraud and identity theft. So just a reminder, keep an eye on, lock your credit scores, keep an eye on all your accounts, make sure you have good passwords, and don't send money to anybody that you don't really initialize, right? So unfortunately, these people they're pros. I wish they would have got real jobs, but this is the profession that they chose to engage in, and it's definitely no fun for the victims. And like I said, they know no boundaries. They go wherever the easiest target is. So keep an eye out, educate your family members if you can. The one traffic accident we had was just kind of a distracted driving, again, not speed related, which is what I always look for. Again, no residential burglaries. It was actually, like I said, pretty good. All crimes against persons, assaults and stuff were all isolated to the homes. Like I said, very controlled. With the school starting up, we have, there's always those suspicious reports of students saying this or having thoughts or whatever like that. A reminder that we have our SMART team, which is our school mobile assessment and response team, that will respond to those things and quickly either quash it or deal with the problem. So that's a very good tool that Villa Park and the rest of Orange County has access to. And so before taking questions, I just want to offer my condolences. Well, luckily not real condolences to our partners over at OCFA, but they had a pretty righteous little accident on the 241. So luckily, I know a couple of them got a good road ahead of them as far as recovery, but luckily it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I know we joke around a lot and jest, but you're our brothers and our sisters, and we're praying for your brother. So, and it's no fun to be the leader of that either. So I sympathize, my friend. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Just real quickly before we go, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so we're going to be running some extra stuff in our feeder, so if people want to watch and kind of tagging on to what the captain said. So it's there's a lot of material coming out, so if they want to check the feeder and things, so we'll make a big point of pushing out some informational flyers, like you said.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Thanks for having me here again. Since our last meeting on August 27th, we've had 118 units dispatched to 42 incidents within the city of Villa Park of various types. We've had a busy month, and I'll get to that in a minute, certainly. The safety topic of the month, just to share with our residents, is senior fall prevention. And after spending a couple of years in our EMS section, it's certainly one of the biggest issues facing senior citizens and the aging. So we've got for the month at ocfa.org, and then I brought some handouts there in the back of the room as well for folks to take with them or come pick up at City Hall if they would like. One is senior fall prevention, and the other one is senior fall prevention. It's a checklist so that folks can kind of look at it every day and see how they're doing, and then look at things in their house that they might be able to make improvements to prevent them from falling. The stats, every 11 seconds, an elderly adult is treated in the emergency room for a fall. And every 19 minutes, an elderly adult dies from a fall and from injuries from that. So that's what we wanted to bring to the forefront this month, certainly from our community education side. I mentioned earlier that we've had a busy month. So the whole area, Southern California, as everyone is well aware, we had 3 large fires that started in early September. The one in Orange County and Trabuco Canyon started on September 9th. And certainly busy with that. We just came out of Unified Command with the United States Forest Service earlier today. The actually just took effect at 5 o'clock this afternoon. They had their transition meeting. So we've had a large contingent of resources, both engines and trucks, or engines mostly, but a lot of the overhead, along with our dozers and our hand crew. As was mentioned, one of our hand crews was in a serious accident last Thursday on the 19th. And so I think I'll stop it there, pending any questions from you.
Colleagues. Just a couple of maybe comments and then a question or two. First comment is obviously my heartfelt sympathies go out to every member of the OCFA family for obviously the injuries sustained to the firefighters involved in that horrible traffic collision, but also in the passing of Joel Brodowski, the IT manager who fought a short but courageous battle with cancer. I know that with getting back to the Wildland Fire Crew, a fund has been set up to help offset some of the costs that are not traditionally handled by the fire authority or even the union. There are some flyers on the front counter of our City Hall. If you're interested, you can please either reach out to me or come in City Hall, and we can provide you more information of ways to give back to them, because it's going to be a long road for some of them. And I thank you for bringing that to our attention and letting us know about that. I do have one question with respect to these large brush fires, and it's actually a question from somebody else. With respect to when you have large fires and you bring in, say, Merced County or Marin County, I know we have contracts with, say, the Forest Service and CAL FIRE. reciprocal financial arrangements. Can you get into a little bit of how the financial piece works with, say, those different county and other local municipalities providing us with mutual aid, and what that financial situation is like?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, and you touched on most of it, but we have a statewide master mutual aid agreement, and there's different contracts, just as you mentioned. For instance, if we had a shorter duration fire, and if we requested resources, we've got the region, which is Los Angeles County, Orange County, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and so that makes up one region. So we might go to the region for a request. We might go to South Ops, which handles the resources from Fresno south in the southern part of the state. Multiple contracts. There'd be like a California fire assistance grant. There could be assistant by hire or a master mutual aid. They all have different triggers, and they're set up with different agencies. But in this case, we'll put in the request under the contract, depending on where it goes through. If the order goes through our region, which would be LA County as the region coordinator for us, then it typically would be an OES, Office of Emergency Services, or through the state, which would be that CFAA. The resources come down, they basically come here, and then there's paperwork done basically in accordance with that agreement, where that individual city would be reimbursed the cost for their fire engine and their personnel that are down here for the entire time that they're here. So that's worked out. There's funds basically at the state level or the local government. There's a cost apportionment meeting that will happen typically after any of our fires. So for instance, part of this was in the state land. I believe it was about roughly 800 acres or so of the airport incident was in state land. And so they'll basically reconcile what resources the state needs to pay for and then what the U.S. Forest Service would be responsible to pay for. And the costs and things like that are all in each one of those agreements.
Thank you very much.
Does that help?
That's perfect. That's on point. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you bringing up Joel Brudowski, manager of our IT section. Just a great guy, really a great man that just recently was diagnosed with cancer and fell to that battle here very, very quickly. So thank you for bringing him up. And then again, we've got these in the back of the room here. We've got a QR code on to make it easy if anyone feels led or can donate. Those funds, it is set up. You'll see the local 3631, the union, is on the Fallen Firefighter Relief Fund site, but it is the best site to get the funds directly to the 8 firefighters that were injured in this accident.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Well, that will conclude our presentations for the evening. Next we'll move on to public comments. At this time, we will review comments from the members of the public to address any off-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council, provided that no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. We will also be reviewing public comments on each agenda item. Steve, do we have any comments?
Thank you. We have 2 people. Jan Keeley first.
Jan, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council people. And as I start talking to more and more people in the community, there's few that brought up something that I don't know if you guys are already doing it or not, but there's a lot of interest in older people to have like maybe monthly bingo night or something that they bring older people to have some activity. And I don't know if we can do it either library or rent this room or maybe for free for our senior member of community. I mean, I'll volunteer to drive some people who don't drive anymore, and something that maybe you can put in an agenda for next meeting. I don't know what you guys do. Maybe you're already doing some things. I don't know. But and if I don't know, and people I talk ask about it, maybe they don't know either. So maybe we can, if we're already doing it, maybe we can notify people somehow. Older people usually don't go on the websites per se, so that's all I wanted to say. So just put it in your mind, because the senior citizens, we have quite a few of them in Villa Park.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Pitts and his lovely wife's here, but the Women's League has a bunco club that I believe is pretty active, and there are several other organizations. The foundation may have some other avenues for entertainment and socialization. Colleagues, any thoughts or comments? Typically, we wouldn't respond to public comments, but given the nature of this, and it's not an agendized item, and I don't think we need to agendize anything, I welcome any input you all may have on this.
I'll make a comment. So We don't have, unfortunately, a senior center or a community center specific for older adults. But we do partner with 3 of the older adults community centers in Orange, which I'm happy to make sure you get that information. But I think really the foundation and the Women's League are excellent avenues. So I don't know if you have that information, but we
I
can
do
get
not,
it
but I'm
to you,
more than happy
and
to talk.
you can give it to those residents. And the foundation acts kind of like our Parks and Rec, which is kind of what it would fall under. But I know the Women's League has
Perfect. Thank
great
you.
events.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any others?
Yes, Lawrence?
Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Good evening. I am very happy to report we had our very first group home task force meeting last night. Thank you, Steve, for helping to keep all of us orderly. It was nice to get everyone together. I am happy to be a vice chair, courtesy of the rest of the task force. Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with everyone to help lead us to resolution with this whole group home task force situation. So thank you again, council, for giving me the opportunity and giving the rest of the residents the opportunity that are serving on the task force to serve on the task force. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for offering to step up and help our community out in that way. Appreciate it. Next up, we will move on to public hearings. Our first hearing is the review to waive reading in full of all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda. I will now open the hearing. Steve, please give the staff report.
Thank you. This is the monthly item we put to allow us to have expedited and efficient operations, and we'd recommend approval.
Thank you. Colleagues? Comments, questions? I don't think so. Any members of the audience want to speak on this? I typically don't think so. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll move it.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Button doesn't want to work. There we
Passes
go.
by a 5-0 vote.
There we go. Oh, good. Our next hearing is the tentative parcel map 2024-127.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the 19401 Mesa Drive parcel map that was discussed 2 meetings ago, continued at the time at the request of the applicant. After continued discussions, the applicant has agreed that he needs additional time to do outreach, to revise grading plans, et cetera, that we've asked of him. So tentatively, he's targeted the October 22nd, 2024 City Council meeting, but that remains to be seen because the city has asked a number of items to be addressed as part of that. So we'll see how that goes, but tentatively, next month we'll do it. If anyone is here, obviously, they can speak, but there'll be no vote or action at this time. We would have to take a vote to continue the item until the next meeting. So that the only action you will take.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you. Please.
So the notices that went out, are we going to re-notice everyone?
Oh, we noticed within 1,500 feet,
Right.
and they've all been out. They've been out for like a month at this point. They went out in early September. So everybody's been noticed, and we've had sort of limited contact at this point, I
But
would
I
say.
mean, are we going to, because they would all likely think that it would be tonight, right?
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, it's on the agenda. They were noticed that it would be discussed, but like I say, we've had very little contact with regards to that second noticing.
So are we comfortable with just letting it be and not letting them know that it's been continued or possibly continued?
We could notice them again, but I think we sent out a lot of notices. It was several $100s to send out. If you want us to send out another one, we will, but it will be on our feeder, and it will be on our website that the item was continued.
Is the cost borne by the applicant or by the city with respect to the notice?
It's borne by the applicant
Okay.
at this point, but, you know, like I say, that we've had very little inquiries as a result of the second noticing. So, you know, I mean, part of the point is we've told him to go do the outreach.
Right.
So we're assuming he's talking to the people, et cetera. That was sort of the direction we said. We're not, you know, that the council had asked for additional outreach and a further span. So we went out, 1,500 feet, or I forget what it, all the way up to
1,500.
Mesa. Yeah, it was something, it
1,500.
was pretty wide, a wide swath. So that was sort of the direction, is we want him to make sure that he's got it. We want to make sure there's any discussions that need to be had.
Did you have further?
No, I feel confident that we've done our due diligence in notifying, so.
Okay. Any further comments from my colleagues? Okay. Couple things I want to share with my colleagues on the dais and members of the public. I've had some concerns and questions, both from residents as well as my own, and I spoke with Todd about this and whether this is a CEQA issue, whether there are restrictions, concerns, considerations that we as a council need to be considering. I think obviously everybody wants somebody to be able to develop and use their parcel of land to its fullest extent. Certainly if it's a house that's in disrepair, be able to repair it or be able to add on to it or be able to do whatever they feel is appropriate within our guidelines. But Todd, if you could speak to some of the concerns that I shared with you regarding CEQA and the negative declaration, and if this is approved without conditions being placed upon it, we've exhausted a lot of avenues. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. So CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, is a legal requirement that the city check approximately 12 different topics: traffic, water quality, various different things, whenever a project is approved via a discretionary permit. The term discretionary permit is a term of art. It means something in which, not surprisingly, the city exercised discretion whether to approve the permit or not. A track map approval, and that's what this is. This is a tentative track map approval under the Subdivision Map Act. Any such approvals under such are subject to CEQA. So this is a CEQA project. You have to follow the CEQA rules. Now, there are many different layers of potential avenues to go down under CEQA, depending upon the environmental impacts of the project. The state has created a number of exemptions. Some are called statutory exemptions because they're in the actual statute. Some are called categorical exemptions that are state regulations, but they have the same impact, which set out certain types of categories which the state has determined just by the nature of the approval, they are going to be exempt from further environmental review. One such applicable in this situation are minor divisions of land. And that's really what this is. So generally, that exemption, I think it's exemption number 15, they all have numbers, I can't remember, would be used to cover this project. Now, with any exemption, though, if a project is of an unusual nature and there are environmental impacts that go above and beyond the usual type of exemption in that situation, it's in the council's discretion not to approve the exemption and require further environmental review. The level of environmental review that would come after that is usually, and I can't imagine it would be an EIR, which is a much larger thing and it'll take a year to prepare, but is something called a negative declaration, where you go through a project and, as the word implies, you are negatively declaring that there's going to be any environmental impacts, but it's a more robust analysis and study to see what those potential impacts are. Usually it ends up with something called a mitigated negative declaration. Once again, as the name implies, you put in mitigation measures so you can make that negative declaration. You're putting on certain conditions to address concerns on the environmental side of the project. So when it comes back to you, I mean, those are the types of questions you want to make sure that the conditions on the project satisfy all of the potential environmental concerns, so you're comfortable with either approving a categorical exemption, or if not, potentially requiring a negative declaration.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I spent some time in college studying this and certainly had some limited professional experience, but it's nuancy. It's not the most widely traveled portion of the law. So I figured it would be beneficial to my colleagues to understand that process and perhaps be thinking about what negative issues that project may have, in addition to the obvious positive ones that it would be for the neighbors and for the individual homeowner. So,
And like I did say, I apologize.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, sir.
CEQA only applies to discretionary projects. It does not apply to what we call ministerial projects. So usually a building permit or something that doesn't require city council approval or action is called a ministerial project, so it isn't subject to CEQA. This would be the time to address, if there are issues, and I'm not saying there are, it would be the time to do it.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that. At this time, I don't believe there's any further action. There's nobody
We
here.
need to vote to continue it.
Right, I was going to get to that. There's nobody here to speak on the matter. I would entertain a motion to continue this matter to our October meeting.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Everybody please vote. Oh, you got a stuck button.
Passes 5-0.
There we go. Thanks. Next public hearing, our next hearing is the Fee Study Update 2024. May I have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a long time coming. I believe the last full fee study we did is 2013. So Lee, this is the main event, and she's been nervous all day, so I'm trying to ease her into this, if you will, because she's done a great job. This has been 2 years. We've hired a consultant to help us with it. It's a long-term project. There's a lot to it, and I think you've all seen that. I've answered various questions over the week from every one of you. Very, very appreciate that very much that you spent the time looking into it. So, are you okay, ready?
So cities get sued a lot about what people say right now, so be careful.
That's really not nice, Todd.
That's me.
That's not nice, Todd.
I'm
is
a
not
horrible
nice
person.
at
You all
all.
know this. That was a joke. Nobody cares. Go ahead.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, thank you, Steve. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. I'm here to present to you the fee study update this evening. So the last fee study was actually completed in 2021, though there was no major changes at the time. A lot of the fees were just more rounding to the nearest dollar instead of have like decimals. And since then, 2021, there are significant changes in these departments that include like engineering, planning, and building departments. And the city contracted with Barry Dunn to review and update those department service fees. So the consultants reviewed the department services, interviewed each department, and they actually determined the true cost for the services as well as the related revenue they collected by reviewing the general ledger, budget documents, contracts, historical trends. And they also calculated the percentage of cost recovery based on current fees. And give me a second. We're gonna show you a quick slide, what we're
There we
looking
go.
at. Yeah,
The next one,
perfect.
go ahead, next one.
Thank you. And let's do one more, please. Okay, so as a result of the fee study review, and this is a summary of the cost recovery based on the current fee level from the fiscal year of 2022 to fiscal year 2026 with the projected based on the budget and the contracts. And so there's a significant increase on the cost, mainly because of the increase of the contract costs, as well as the contract costs. And we also have contract out the building department with the retirement of our last building official. Also, as well as increased hours to keep up with the current demands of the services, as well as to the regulatory compliances that we have to be comply with, like state laws or OCTA, that kind of like agencies. Okay, so next slide, please.
So I just really, before we leave that slide, I wanted to make the point, the analysis there, when we say we're recovering 49% of our things, that was in 2022 actual. And in 2024-25, we're closer to 36, 37%. That doesn't mean the costs go away. It just means what the applicants are paying for that. So in other words, the general fund is picking up the balance, okay? So to put it in really concrete terms, your next door neighbor is doing a project. They're only paying for roughly 37% of the cost of doing the permitting, et cetera. You're helping to pay for the balance of his project. the neighbors are helping. So that puts it in real terms for the rest. So what's the need for this is because basically you shouldn't continue to pay more for projects that your neighbors are doing. That's really the impetus and the mantra that I kept getting on staff about and the consultant. So I wanted to put it in real concrete terms. What does it mean for the individuals and the neighbors, et cetera? It means that if the applicant who are doing projects don't pay for their full fair share or as close as we can get it, then what happens is that it's picked up, that cost is picked up by the general fund, which is paid by all the taxpayers and residents. Now, the other thing too is you're going to look and say, well, gosh, we're at 49%, why are we not 50% or above or 100%? There's a concept that predates me that Villa Park has always sort of had. We are 95, maybe even higher than that, percentage property tax based. So every time a project gets done, it gets reappraised. And that means that the tax base will go up and we receive more revenue. So the prior councils, your predecessors, the administrations in the past have always sort of wanted to incentivize development. You don't want to set the cost so high, no one wants to mess with it. It's like, you kidding, a permit's going to cost $10,000, I'm not going to mess with it. So it changes the dynamics. So there's always been sort of like, hey, the city's in it with you, 50%, we're in it with you. So that's sort of the mantra and approach that's been taken, the strategy. So a lot of questions are, why aren't we 100%? In a ideal financial world, we would, but at the long term, if you think about it, our investment of the 50% makes more money for us in the long run because we're helping to stimulate the development of the city and improve the city because, you don't want homes that are built in the 1960s that nobody's touched. You want them to continue to develop and make the community like it is a beautiful community. So it's sort of a philosophy that predates me. I certainly couldn't take credit for it, but it's a stimulus package, if you will, or approach. And I think it's served us well, but we can't sink too far below because it's unfair to those residents who are around, because we eventually start to lose so much ground. You can see that we're not keeping that. I kind of wanted to put that in a framework so you understand the philosophy of what's going on here, because I think every one of you has called me and says, why aren't we at 100%? Well, there's a reason we're not 100%. We don't necessarily want to be there. So anyway, I'll go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for clarification.
Would you be okay if we ask
sure, go
questions
ahead.
about each slide? Okay. I don't want to interrupt her flow, but I think it is a good idea for you to, when you have a question, ask it. Go ahead.
We took a huge jump from 23 to 24, and then in the report it said that they used 22 and 23 cost accounting. That's how it come up. I understand we included, the changes that we're going through, and I'm assuming that's the jump to the 942 and beyond.
So the cost increases are there in the contracts and things like, we have extrapolated out and included future anticipated costs, et cetera. So for instance, in 26, we don't have our budget yet, but we're projecting out what the cost, CPIs and those kinds of things are going to be for us. So yeah, you're right, exactly. We've sort of used the basic data of 21, 22, or roughly that. That's to determine the base level, and then you add on top of that where our budget went up 3% or our budget went up 4% or whatever. That's where we're adding the appropriate, like staff got a raise, for instance, in 24 or 23. So we add that in there, and that's what you're going to see jumps in there accordingly. And that's with health rates and all those kinds of things are also included in there. The other thing that's not, that she said, is like regulatory changes. It takes longer to do things. We have more requirements to do things. Remember the ADU law that they passed? We have to respond within 30 days. Well, there's a cost to doing that because we have to contract out plan check. And plan check costs become more than they would have been in the past. So there's a certain timeframes and things that are changing regulatory that were required. That also gets to do on like water, it's not drainage, it's WQMP, and I can never remember what the acronym stands for. Water Quality Management Plan. So thank you. But anyway, that we're required to review those plans, and those kinds of things weren't required in the past. So that's taking our engineer, who's got to be a certified engineer, to review all those things. So there's more times that are required. And those are contract costs that we have to incur additionally.
I would offer one comment too, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I think that he does raise a great question. I commend Councilman Pitts on that and your answer, Steve. Thank you. Houses are more complicated now.
Yeah.
The engineering is more complicated. The technology that's put in these buildings is much more complicated, both from fire suppression to materials to audio, video, you name it. So there's more time. bottom line. So, thank you.
Right, even like solar technology, you've got shingles that are solar generating
Yeah.
energy. We didn't have those, or at least we didn't have them as prevalent as you start to do now. But there's training, there's requirements, and a review. They've got to review electrical panels differently. It's a more complicated thing. It's sort of like your technician that you used to know in high school when you used to work on your cars. They can't work on some of these electric cars anymore, these cars, because there's so much to them now. You open up the hood, you almost don't recognize the cars that I grew up with because there's like so much to them. I think it's a great point. Thank you, Mayor, for sort of laying that out there, because that's true. As you get technology, things get more complicated. You got to plug in dials and this and that and whatever, and I think that's where we're at. So you're going to see jumps in costs going up as a result.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's do next slide. Okay, so with the fee study and as a result, and in order to be in compliance with the cost recovery policy that the council adopted back in 2021 to reach it closer to the 50% overall cost recovery, Barry Denzel Consultant recommended the following. First is to adjust the fees to recover the cost so that we can go back to the 50% recovery rate. And also to adjust the fees perhaps like annually based on CPI changes so that we can keep up with the cost. And also undertake a thorough fee review every 2 to 3 years. And as well as assess the 3% credit card convenience fees to offset our current financial charges based on the credit cards.
So people can use their credit card now. We take credit cards, so people come in. We're eating the 3% right now. And I think I've talked to Councilwoman Miles, and she said, yeah, you're basically getting 97% on the dollar because you're eating that cost. And that kind of just eats away at what you're doing. I think it's
It's like 96.5 because 3% is really great. It's usually 3.5%, almost 4% credit card
so,
fee.
but you could pay, for instance, you could pay your property taxes, but it clearly labels in the county, but it clearly labels there's a convenience fee. We're one of the few that don't charge, so we want to, Barry Dunn says, get on the stick, if you will, and start doing it.
So, quick question. As far as the proposed rates are concerned, if I have an existing project right now that I'm working on, and you put these rates into effect, we don't go back.
No.
We go forward, is that
This will
correct?
be, what she's talking about is effective January 1st of 2025. So projects brought in. So let's say you have a grading permit, it's already been issued. We're not going to go charge you more.
Okay.
But when you come in for the building permit, if you come in March or February, we're going to charge you the higher rate, right? So, but we're not going to say, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to go back and get you because your project's not done. We're not doing any of that. The other thing too is by pushing it to January 1st, we're giving people notice. So that's basically, almost 3 to 4 months of notices at advance.
Well, didn't we have some projects that, in the past, that expired and had to come back and reissue?
Well,
And
those
would those
I
fall
treat
under
differently because if they've expired, there's typically problems with the project.
Right.
So I don't have as much guilt or regret or remorse if somebody has done something because we're on them about trying to do their projects.
Well, we've
So if
already
they-
done the work, and we're already out a lot of money.
Yeah, so if we should be charging them. I don't sound hardcore, but it's my job's to protect the city. And if, like you say, we've done the work, we should be receiving the money to reimburse us for that. Now, I mean, if somebody comes in, there's a hardship. I mean, there was a situation where we had remember permit waivers we did during COVID because nobody could get workers or materials. We waived the fees for a time and the council did that. And that was based on the situation where we're not in that situation anymore. There's a lot of construction going on and a lot of activities going on. So I think we're trying to be prospective, but also if somebody has projects that lapse, there's reasons for a lapse, and typically they're not because city. They're typically because of the applicant or builder or resident. And, they don't want to hear that, but that's the reality.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's do next slide, please. Okay, so with that, all that said, so staff recommends that the city council to approve the proposed new and amended fees as well as a 3% credit card convenience fee that to be effective January 1st, 2025, and adopt a resolution approving the proposed comprehensive fee schedule, which basically is including the engineering, building, and planning, as well as the rental fees, the current fees that we have. So it's more like a master fee schedule. And direct staff to review and update the fees annually based on CPI, and direct staff to initiate another comprehensive fee study within 5 years. And
So real quickly, the annual study will still come back to the council. What we're saying is, when we address it with CPI, we come back to you and say, okay, CPI was this or that or whatever. So the council still has review of them. It's not just we automatically, you're not giving us the ministerial deferring to us. It's, we'll still come back to you, but it basically, we want to sort of be charged and have the right to come back every year and say, CPI has driven us this or whatever. At some points of this year, you'll recall we were up to 7% CPI or maybe even higher. I don't know what the numbers were, but it's dropping a little bit now. But I think what we want to be doing is coming back to the council each year and say, that's an indicator that we ought to be reflecting in our costs.
And lastly is also to direct staff to publish the approved comprehensive fee schedule, as well as meeting with the affected parties within at least like 30 days prior to the implementation. And that's conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Great job. One more question, if I could.
Go ahead.
Did we benchmark, did Barry Dunn benchmark these against other cities?
We've had that question. What they benchmark against is how we do things and what we do. This isn't like if you're building a building permit in if you're getting a building permit in Villa Park, it's not like you can shop in Orange and get a building permit over there. So it's how we benchmarked our expenses and how we do things. So it's not like you're going to Lowe's or Walmart or whatever. You're going to shop around. It's how we do things here, and that's what we benchmarked. So what Orange does, what all these other cities do, they do it very differently. Some have contractors, some do it in-house, some have whatever. We have a very quick response. We try and get 30-day plan check, et cetera, and you can call the same day and get building inspection. So what we did is benchmark our costs the way we do it. We don't want to, this isn't one where you can go shop around and say, I want to go to Orange because they have cheaper building inspection costs over there.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it that way. If somebody's coming new to the city.
Right.
And they're evaluating cost overall, Villa Park versus some other location.
Right.
And our fees push us out of the.
No, I think our fees overall are going to be very comparable, and our service level is by far
Oh, yeah, I know that.
in superior to other entities. So, I mean, I talked to somebody, if you go through and you're building in San Clemente, you got plan check of 6 months, okay? And us, you're going to do 30 days. So, and there's nowhere, I have not seen a city manager yet that said you can call in the morning and get a building inspection that same day. That just doesn't happen elsewhere, But there's a reason why we do it that way. It's not because we're superhuman, it's because that's what we live on. That's our bread and butter. Our expenses and our revenues come from property tax. So we want to encourage properties being done. So Todd wants to weigh in on something, I think.
Well, just informationally, so under the government code and various state propositions, 26 others, so legally we can only charge cost recovery for processing fees. Legally, under the Fee Mitigation Act and other things, we have to do this study to justify the fees we charge. That is the legal process, which we've followed in this case. Under the law, the fees cannot go into effect until 60 days after adoption. So we're well beyond that time period. That's just the legal framework for your information.
I know you had a question, but I was going to comment on that. Is that okay? Do you mind? And I think on top of that, you can't go above 3% anyways, even if it's more. So like I was going to ask, the credit card machine that we use, is it a point of sale machine? Like, the one that gets connected straight to the bank, or is it a Square? What is it?
Yeah, it's actually connected to, it's processed through a third-party merchant processing from the iWork. And I believe the name, I could get back to you, but it is directly. So it doesn't run directly through the CD portal, but it ran through the third-party merchant. So it went directly point of sale in
Point of
time.
sale.
Yes, correct.
Okay, because the only reason why I asked that is because if it's point of sale going directly to the bank, then I think the 3% is fine. But if you're using like a Square or something like that, then the fees change depending on if you plug it in or if you swipe it or if you tap it. So, and they can range anywhere from 1.5 to 4.5 depending on what you do. So, but to your point, because I just looked it up too, I think we can only do max of 3%. But anyways, just food for thought. That was all.
That just raised a point. I don't even know what it is for services like this, but you would want it to be a point of sale within Villa Park so we get the sales tax
Right, it
revenue.
is, it is, it is.
Okay.
Councilman Wu.
My question will be, I mean, this slide, but can we go back to the previous slide? On the third point, undertake a thorough fee review every 2 to 3 years. On this slide, you say 2 to 3 years, but the next slide, you mentioned every 5 years.
Yes, yes.
Because it's going to take us time, we'll go through a process, and this has taken us 2 years to do. So if you're going to start a process, start it every 2 to 3 years, it's going to take us 3 to 5 to get back to you, because you go through that machinations of a time study. We literally talk and figure out a process. What does it take to walk through a process? So this is a very time-consuming process to do. So we need to initiate every 2 to 3 years, and maybe we should have used a different word instead of undertake, or initiate a thorough review every 2 to 3 years, but it would be completed within 5 years.
Okay, thank you for
If
that.
it makes sense. But this process has taken us, you guys actually let the contract for this way back 2 years ago.
Last year.
Last year? Okay.
It took a full year.
Full year
It took a
to get-
full year to basically to go through it, and then we also reviewed the report internally, met with each of, like, also thank to all of the department staff to take the time to actually kind of go through the entire process.
Certainly, I understand there's a lot of work and takes a long process. That's really why I was just curious, maybe
Yeah.
just using the word.
Right.
And also reading from your presentations, the next slide, would you please? When you mentioned direct the staff to do the CPI or direct the staff to do a fee study, I would imagine that means the cost doing the study is already in-house.
Right.
Versus what is being presented is by Barry Dunn.
Yeah, so
Obviously,
what
we
we're
pay
doing,
somebody.
what we would look at annually is like, okay, the state passes laws, I don't know how many they passed, but a ton of them, all right? So there are fees every year that are new to us. So there are going to be new fees in here that you haven't seen and people haven't seen before. So every year, we're going to look and say, guess what? We got these things we've never had to do, the WMQMP, we've got ADU requirements, we've got, and they're continuing. So what we want to do is look at them every year and say, okay, there have been some major changes in what we have to do, and that's what we're going to target every year. We're not doing we're not going to do the comprehensive outside firm looking at us every year. But we need to look at them and say, look, we just got loaded on stuff that we got to get done, and, there's no fee for it. But there's literally no fees for some of the stuff before because they're new. And we can alert them and we can address them. Or the other thing, too, is if we know things are going up 7%, I don't need to wait 3 to 5 years for a firm to tell us, CPI just went up 7%, guys. Look at the gas tank. Go fill your gas tank and see what it is. You can get those, and that's what we want to identify, the things that are going to stick out to us annually. All right, then you go through the full comprehensive with the outside firm to validate an independent validation, if you will, of what we're doing on a longer-term basis.
Okay, that's really what I want to just make sure I understand. We are not spending the extra money
No.
annually, have someone else to look
Now,
at
we'll
it.
look at it internally every year,
Yeah.
outside firm every logger.
Thank you, that's all.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, and thank you so much for this report. I just have one issue on it. On page 16, on the cost of service analysis, I noticed that we're not collecting the full amount for the after-the-fact conditional use permits, and we do collect close to the full amount for the after-the-fact variances. And so I think council will pretty much agree with me that there's a lot of work that goes in on the part of staff and even on council to approve things after the fact. They have to be discovered, and then the homeowner has to be noticed that, they did something wrong. There's a lot of fees that go into that. And so I felt like the city really shouldn't be eating, in this case, over $300, every time someone, just goes and does something and waits to ask, forgiveness instead of permission. So I have already talked to staff about it and would like to increase just that line to 3,600, just to more accurately reflect the cost of our staff's time.
We're
you for your
fine with
comment.
that. I mean, I think she raises a valid point, after the fact, that the reality, though, we don't have a lot of CUPs, you have a lot of variances. So that's probably the more prevalent. CUPs, we have probably one or two a year or whatever, but I think it's a valid point that if somebody's doing something after the fact, I mean, they shouldn't get away with it. They shouldn't get a
Should
benefit.
pay for staff's time.
Yeah, they
We
shouldn't get a
shouldn't be
benefit.
eating anything on that.
Right. So I agree with that. So we were just trying to be, where we were coming from, and it wasn't a significant thing, but we're very comfortable with that suggestion, and I think it's a valid point.
Thank you. Any further
I have a question.
question? And then we'll have public comment, assuming there is any.
I'm hoping this passes. I totally agree with Mayor Pro Tem's assessment and point, but will we be doing any kind of, I don't know, educational kind of, hey, guess what, the fees are all changing, and so if you have plans, get in here and do it now, or?
If you look at the recommended action, we'll publish these, and first of all, it's 60 days where we can implement them, but we're well ahead. We will meet with the affected parties, contractors, et cetera. We'll have flyers and things out for the contractors. And they come in, a lot of, the good contractors come in and check with us in the first place.
We can
The
put it on
bad
the
ones, we need to
feeder.
charge them full after the fact. But yeah, we will be doing, and we'll even put it on our feeder and
On the
things like
feeder,
that.
okay.
So yeah, we'll be publishing it, and that's our whole approach. The fee study is public, and we want that out there. So we do actually have people calling, what's it going to take, what's the cost for this, and what's the cost for that. The good contractors make a point of doing that in advance because they're figuring if a good contractor builds those costs of permitting into their projects. The bad ones, we have to do the after the fact, they don't know what's going on or whatever. But the good ones, we try and get those, and we'll definitely meet with them. There's some major contractors that we'll be talking to.
Well, I appreciate all the staff time on this, and this is, I think this is really appropriate and timely. And you had hit on it before, but, it's hard to say if we're comparable or competitive, but I'm feeling pretty confident that we are pretty competitive, specifically when it comes to the level of service that we
Right,
can offer.
right.
So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment on this matter?
No, we received no public comment.
I will entertain a motion. In fact, I'll just make the motion. I move that we make the motion pending the amendment of Mayor Pro Tem. I
That would be for
concur
the conditional use permits. We're
100%.
going to 3,600, correct?
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Everybody please vote.
After the fact. Yeah, condition. Passes by a 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
We will now move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and are usually enacted by one motion approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. Any member of the city council, staff, or the public may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion or separate action. Council members, are there any items 4 through 9 that you would like to remove from the consent calendar? Seeing none, hearing none. Any members of the public, would you like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Hearing none, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items 4 through 9? I have a motion. I have a second. Everybody please vote. Now I got the sticky
Passes
button.
5-0.
Here we go. Next up, we have new business, item 10. Our first item of new business is the approval of the professional services agreement with Empire Pipe and Cleaning Equipment. Steve?
Thank you. This is actually, I'm kind of glad it's coming up because people always say, what is that special assessment for sewers that I'm paying on my property tax? This is what we're dealing with. Every year, we preventively clear half our city of roots and blocks, et cetera. It's too much to do in 1 year, so we do it every year. We do the north half 1 year and the south. We just finished the south part of the city. But what we do is we clear them out in their roots, and actually as an infrastructure that was built in 1962, you can imagine there's just lots of roots and things. So that's going to take us 60 to 80,000 a year kind of thing. Then we also deal with the same contract. We use this contract for blockages, which every one of you has seen a manhole come up with whatever, and that happens regularly. We use the same service. So this year, we did the south part of the city, and we had a larger number of emergencies than we normally would have. So we had a contract, a multiple-year contract. We used more than we thought in this year's contract, so we don't have enough to get through the north part of the city. So we are building in, we have $20,000 left on the contract. It's going to take us about $70,000 to get through the north part of the city. But we're adding 70, you say we have 70, that gives you 90. Well, we also are anticipating blockages. It's because I don't want to have to come back mid-year and say, oops, we got blockages and we got to deal with it. So we're putting in 20,000. As needed, we use it. If not, we don't use it. So we are building in. Now, what does that go back to? This, it goes back, it gets charged to our sewer assessment fee. There's a maintenance fee that everyone pays, and I don't, was it 149 or a year, something like that. But that goes into a pot, it's dedicated, that's all it can be used for, those monies can be used. And it's specifically for this purpose, to clean and make it. So it's the best approach we have is to clean them in advance. And last year we also scoped them, as you recall, to see where flows were and things like that, where blockages were. So what we try and do is keep preventative ahead of the schedule, get them all done. So we have $20,000 left in the contract, $70,000 being added. I think it's $70,000 at this time, if I'm right. Yeah, $70,000, and that will give us $90,000. $70,000 will allow us to complete the north. 60 to 70 will take to get it done, and we have a contingency for emergencies, which never happen on weekdays. They always happen on prime overtime hours, the weekends, or they take time to go on the weekends. So we have to do them. So those are things we can't not have the money for. So we're requesting in advance the money to go ahead and amend the contract, get it done, and not have to come back to you mid-year and use the funds dedicated for that purpose. So that's our recommendation.
Colleagues, questions?
Oh, and there is an RFP to go out. This contract expires at the end of June 2025. So we're doing an RFP, so we'll come back. But I suspect Empire, who's long-term, would be dealing with us. We're getting a pretty good deal and very good service, because I can tell you right now, within hours, they're out dealing with. When there was on Santiago just a couple months back, and they were out there within an hour. Before I could even get out there, they were out there. So that's pretty good.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Members of the public, do you have any comments or concerns? Seeing none, hearing none. Entertain a motion on item 10. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the city manager report. Steve, it's your show.
Thank you. I've provided a monthly report, and we're going through things. And it's not shown here, but much by the prompting, I don't think I showed here, much by the prompting of Mayor Pro Tem Jones, we have completed the review of the foundation bylaws, and that will be shown as done. We updated Tamsin. And I completed it, so we're taking care of that. I guess it did show up on item number 63. But anyway, that's being done, so that's being removed. And that's sort of more bureaucratic than, it's one of those things that you got to go through line by line. We've done it. And otherwise, everything else, we are moving along in projects. And I think we're going to have a pretty active fall in the next couple months about a couple things. We've been license plate readers, I think, will be coming back potentially in October. I think we will potentially have the lot split on Mesa. We believe that we will have to take some sort of action in the fall on a housing element. So we've got some actions that will be coming up. But anyway, we're moving forward on those. Even though you haven't seen them on the agenda, they're still in the process and moving. So anyway, I can answer any questions if you want.
Council, any questions? Okay. Any members of the public? Nope. All right. This is a non-voting item, so we'll move on to mayor and council member matters. A resolution in support of Proposition 36, the Homeless, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. I'm going to go ahead and defer to my colleague here.
Thank you. So we are a member of Cal Cities, AKA League of California Cities, and I've been a part of the Public Safety Committee. And Connor Medina, who is the Orange County Legislative Chair Director, has really pushed the advocacy to support Prop 36 that's on the ballot this year to all the cities, and they crafted up the wording for this resolution, which I think is really important for Orange County cities to adopt. And in case people aren't aware, I have a little background. So this Prop 36, it makes several key changes. So it all stems from Prop 47, which was adopted by voters back in 2014. That would have been a long time ago. And it changed some theft and drug crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. So, for example, shoplifting, unless it reached the threshold of $950, it was a misdemeanor, and drug possessions generally became misdemeanors. And then, unfortunately, what they saw is some unintended consequences of Prop 47 that led to devastating costs to communities and businesses, including a decreased deterrent effect, which caused a rise in crime rates and lack of rehabilitation. So Prop 36 is making several key changes to this, and it's related to the punishments for theft and drug crimes. First, it'll increase punishment for some of these crimes by reclassifying some misdemeanor drug and theft crimes as felonies. And second, it creates a new treatment-focused court process for some drug possession crimes. And third, it requires courts to warn people convicted of selling or providing illegal drugs to others that they can be charged with murder if they continue to sell those drugs and if a death results from the sale of those drugs. So that's, I think, extremely important. And despite millions being allocated by our governor to cities and counties targeting organized retail crime, shoplifting crimes continue to be an issue, and those are the crimes that really we saw rise as an unintended consequence. And there was a study by the Council of Criminal Justice, it's a nonpartisan research organization, showed that shoplifting incidents in New York and Los Angeles had increased by over 60% between 2019 and the middle of 2023. And then there was a poll, it was reported on KTLA 5 last week on Wednesday, 9/19, that showed that 71% of voters are likely to vote yes on the initiative, while 26% would vote no. So a yes vote on Prop 36 would roll back the provisions of Prop 47, which was a voter-approved initiative that reduced some felonies to misdemeanors and set a $950 threshold for shoplifting charges. So in the push to help make sure that we listen to our Cal Cities, League of California Cities, advocacy, public safety groups, I would really appreciate, and I think the voters would too, unanimous support for this resolution to support Prop 36. It's on our ballot in November.
I concur 100%. I can tell you that personally and professionally, Proposition 47 has been devastating to Californians far and wide, and this is a project, or this is a proposition that has bipartisan support. It doesn't go far enough in some people's mind, but I think it's a great first step in trying to stem the tide and help law enforcement, giving them the tool and protecting our most precious little ones, especially from people that sell drugs. It's a huge thing. So I commend you for that and your leadership on this, and it's my honor to support it. I welcome any comments by my colleagues, please.
Yeah, so I have to say, generally speaking, I'm a little hesitant about weighing in on state initiatives just because I prefer to have our residents do their own homework and make up their own minds. However, I do really appreciate just this council's thoughtfulness when we have weighed in on some of these items, like we weighed in on SB 44 just last January. We really do, I feel, as a council, like weigh in when it's important and when it's a matter of public safety. And like you said, Prop 47 has had horrible unintended consequences for our state. It's really been devastating in a lot of our communities where these smash and grab thefts are just a daily occurrence now. 60 Minutes just a couple days ago called fentanyl the scourge of our time. And this helps address some of those items that we were trying to get through in SB 44 before it was voted down. So I am fully in support of this, and thank you for bringing it to the council.
Thank you for your comments. Council members, any further comments? Okay. Any members of the public want to comment on this? Seeing none, hearing none. Recommendation is that we adopt this resolution. So do I have a motion on this? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All vote.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Individual council information items. First up, Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control.
Getting there. Hold on. Sorry. 2 seconds.
That's all right. Take your time. Councilman Pitts, do you want to go with sanitation?
Yeah, because mine's extremely brief tonight.
Mine are too.
I had two meetings, sanitation had two meetings this past month, the administrative committee and also a board meeting. There are no actionable items to report. Most of the dialogue was departmental presentations about what's going to take place probably in the next 12 to 18 months. So no reportable action.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and go with Orange County Fire Authority. Unfortunately, due to illness, I was unable to attend the last board meeting. Never thought I'd get COVID again, but I did, and it stunk. So I'd rather go to the meeting. But I will be going this Thursday, and I've been checking in routinely with our division chief. I don't think there's anything significant to report for our community. I just know our firefighters have been battling incredible amount of, there's been some blazes far and wide that they've been involved in and doing definitely the Lord's work, and I commend them and thank them for that. So no report on Orange County Fire Authority. I'm going to go ahead and go back to you.
Thank you. So I had to pull up my slides. So I have two pieces of information. One is super exciting, and want to congratulate staff and all the residents. So I think you guys have heard me talk about all summer. There was a big campaign, how competitive, everyone was, all 34 cities, in the boardroom about this competition that was going on with who was going to win with the awareness of, mosquitoes suck and tip toss take action. And I know our city staff got really involved, and we would put stuff on the feeder, and we had our magnets, and we'd have, I did a couple things, and there were some residents that posted stuff. Well, for the small cities, which is out of Villa Park, Los Al, La Palma, Laguna Woods, Laguna Beach, Seal Beach, Laguna Hills, Dana Point, San Juan Capistrano, Stanton, Brea, and Rancho Santa Margarita, we won. So, so that's awesome. What that means is they gauge it on PSA, social media, website, e-newsletters, billboards, reader boards, large signage, magazines, media ads, newsletters, and magnets. And so it's done by the staff at Vector Control. It's not like it's done by any of the board members. So next month, they were going to come this evening, but they don't have the plaque, so they're going to present a plaque to the city. So they'll come next month and present that. So hopefully the girls, because I know they were all very instrumental in making sure I'd send them stuff, and I'm like, get this out. So they were very good about doing that. So that was kind of a fun, thing. And I was not able to attend the meeting when they announced it, but boy, my phone blew up, and everyone was like, you won, because they're very competitive in there. And anyways, Seal Beach and I are no longer friends. So, but then just some updates on some data. West Nile virus in California. There are 51 human infections with 6 deaths. Positive mosquito samples is 1,654, and 427 positive dead birds. The West Nile virus activity in California 2024 year to date. There are 17 counties with human cases, so this is really alarming. In Orange County, there's 1 human infection. There's 1 dead bird. Fortunately, no deaths in Orange County, I'd like to say yet. But the positive West Nile mosquito samples by city, we do not have any, but Anaheim, Buena Park, Fullerton, Huntington Beach, Irvine, La Palma, Los Al, Orange, Placentia, Santa Ana, Seal Beach, Stanton, Tustin, and Westminster all do have positive West Nile virus samples. And then if you remember, we were talking about the travel-related dengue cases. There are now 31 travel-related cases, so that's really alarming. And the first locally acquired dengue case occurred in Baldwin Park. So flea-borne typhus, there's 9 human cases with 114 positive flea samples. So hopefully with the weather cooling off, we should have less fleas if you have fleas, but you should really get your pets on those flea control substances. And then the SIT, which is that sterile insect technique. If you remember, I told you Mission Viejo, there was going to be like a 200 home area where they were going to do the first test run of releasing the mosquitoes and then recapturing them, and that went off without a hitch. And they're continuing to gather the information, so we'll find out how many of those survived, and that's really important to be able to make this go broader and globally. So that's coming along really great. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Orange County Library Advisory Board.
No meeting.
Orange Unified School District City Schools Committee.
So we did not have a meeting. However, I would like to share that the e-bike safety meeting that we hosted at Villa Park High School on September 11th was extremely well attended. And Villa Park High School, in part because of the involvement from the city and our staff contacting the school district and offering to work with them on these trainings, they have initiated a pilot program to issue permits for students who want to ride their e-bikes to school. So this is a great program. They're hoping to spread it district-wide. We're kind of tweaking it a little bit and, planning some presentations again in January, but really successful. So I just really like to thank OUSD and the Sheriff's Department for partnering with us on this.
And I would like to thank the school district for hosting the prior event, though nowhere near as widely participated in or attended, but there was a conflict with, I believe, a back-to-school night at the high school. So no surprise, there were not too many people there, but I do thank everybody for going to that. Law Enforcement Advisory Committee. I am going to semi-defer to you on this because you had a majority of the meeting. I came in late due to some conflicts and scheduling issues.
Yes. So we had a meeting yesterday to discuss license plate readers. No action was taken as we are preparing to evaluate the information that was presented. There was a lot of information that we got on a drive, and we will be discussing it at our next meeting on October 9th. But please look for it on the October City Council agenda.
And that LEAC meeting will be October 9th at 5 p.m. for those that are interested in attending, and I look forward to that. Villa Park Community Services Foundation.
So we have had 2 meetings since our last council meeting. We've discussed our upcoming events, such as the Halloween Fest, Santa Tour, and Boat Parade. But I'd like to say that the Villa Park Picnic was a huge success. So thank you to everyone who came out. Thank you to Paperback Writer, who was the Beatles cover band who played. There were food, games, music, all provided by the foundation, and everyone seemed to have a great time. And if you love these events, and, we had a speaker earlier talk about senior bingo nights. The foundation really is our Parks and Recreation department. So I would really encourage you that if you are not a foundation member, to become a foundation member. And you can at www.vpcsfoundation.org. So go to the website and become a member. Tomorrow evening, again, the Villa Park Community Services Foundation is hosting a candidates forum right here in City Hall at 7 p.m. So please come and find out what our candidates have to say about the issues you care about. And that's my report.
Housing Legislative Committee.
No meeting.
Bridges at Kramer.
No meeting for that one.
Orange County Older Adults Advisory Commission.
Okay, thank you. So we met on September 13th, and this is a 2-part. So if you remember, I guess probably back January, end of last year and then into January, I talked about a survey, and we had some that we left up at the front, and you could do online, or you could do by hand and mail it in. And so that was the needs assessment survey that the Office on Aging had put out so that the county could do a master plan on aging and make sure it aligned with the California state regulations and what Governor Newsom put for the aging services and master plan on aging. So we were supposed to get that data filtered through and analyzed a lot sooner than we did. Unfortunately, it's taken a really long time. So we got an update that the provider that conducted the survey did turn over all the data to the Office on Aging, and so they've hired 2 analysts to go through and run the data and get the information. So that report will come out in December, and it's really important to get this because that's what we determine this master plan on aging and how we're going to allocate funds. And is it going to go with the social services department? Is it going to stay with Orange County Older Adults? So once that data is, sifted through and done, then in the first quarter of 2025, we'll share the key findings and be able to make the recommendations to the Board of Supervisors and the stakeholders based on that needs assessment on what needs to happen or what should happen or what we'd like to see happen with older adults in Orange County, because one of the things that we're trying to really do is, as I mentioned when I was up north in San Jose, Orange County is not doing very well competitively with Riverside, San Diego, LA County on being an age-friendly county. And there's several ways that we learned how we can do that. So in the meantime, the chair and I have gone and met with 3 of the 5 supervisors so far, one-on-one, and explained to them kind of what we see, what we would need. And so far, we've got 3 of 5 buying in. We have the other 2 supervisors to meet with in October. And we just really want to make sure that Orange County is going to be a competitive place for our older adults to be able to get services and transportation, food insecurity, like our Second Harvest individual was talking about. And so with that, we had a great presentation from OCTA, which I don't know if a lot of people know this. OCTA is also working really hard to make sure that they have very good services for our older adults throughout the Orange County. And I'm going to touch on just a couple of them. So the Senior Mobility Program, Senior Non-Emergency Medical Transportation, and the OC Bus, which is a fixed route. So OCTA, if you are someone that needs help, you can go do trainings, and you can go on the website, and they will help train you on how to, and it could be you as the older adult, it could be you as the caregiver for the older adult, and you can go get training to learn where your closest bus stop is, how you get on, how you get off, and they provide that service for free, so it's a really valuable tool. They also have a reduced fare program for anybody that's 60 or older, and then again, that training is free, and the training doesn't have to be just for older adults. You could go take that training, and it's completely free, and if you do the training, you get a free bus pass for like 30 days, I believe. So the Senior Mobility Program, 32 cities and 3 nonprofits participate. It's funded through local sales tax measures. Cities receive funding bi-monthly based on sales tax revenue and their population of 60 years and older. It provides local trips to residents 60 years and older. Most programs provide transportation to and from senior centers, medical appointments, and shopping. And all services are ADA equivalent, but do not require ADA paratransit eligibility. And then the Senior Non-Emergency Medical Transportation is funded by Measure M2 and tobacco settlement revenue, and it's called SNEMT. And the key elements to that is it's available to all the residents in the county who are 60 years and older. There is an application and waiver form that must be completed, and services provided only to and from medical appointments. So this one is not like the like the taxi cab or whatever. So you have to be traveling to a doctor's appointment, and it's a maximum of 15 miles distance from the rider's home, and they ask for a $2 donation. And then the 2 providers for that Senior Non-Emergency Medical Transportation, in the North County for us, it's Abrazar, and in the South County, it's AgeWell. And then lastly, it's on our website, and I really appreciate that, but part of that senior mobility is the OC Go, and it's the California Taxi Yellow Cab program, which used to cost $5, but now I think it's completely free. So it doesn't charge our residents anything. And this is door-to-door taxi service for eligible Villa Park residents to limited destinations. You just have to be 60 years of age. You have to apply, and upon application approval, you get a senior mobility ID number, and then it's really easy to call and schedule. I think you have to schedule within 24 hours, but it runs 7 days a week. So those are services that are really important and available, and that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you for that. We will now hear individual council information items or announcements. Councilman Wu.
I have this month I have attended the picnic in the park. That was a really fun event, and so was the educational event workshop for the e-bike. I did not know how many different categories they are for e-bikes, so that was definitely opening. And I highly recommend our residents who attend tomorrow's candidate forum tomorrow, and best luck to all the 4 candidates. for tomorrow night. That's all I have. Thank you.
So, again, would love to see everyone come tomorrow to hear from, hear what the candidates have to say. I don't know what questions there are, but hopefully there's some really good ones. The e-bike safety awareness was fantastic. I appreciate everyone's involvement in that. Mayor Pro Tem and I met to kind of start our process of being able to perhaps provide some advocacy to LEAC and then the council, hopefully on some sort of e-bike ordinance or resolution or something. So that's a work in progress for us. And then most recently, I got appointed by Supervisor Wagner to a commission, Orange County status of women and girls in Orange County. So we had our first meeting. Of course, the bylaws were involved, so I altered the bylaws to make it so that we could expand and grow. And our second meeting will be in October, and I'm really looking forward to being able to participate in that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I already mentioned the e-bike safety meeting, but thank you to all our community members who came out for that. I also attended the reception for Bill Tarrin. It was a wonderful tribute to him, and I really want to thank all the community members who came out for that reception as well. I think it was very meaningful for him, and I hope to still see him around the community. I also volunteered for the Orange International Street Fair with my other hat as a board member for the Orange Unified Public Schools Foundation, but when the organizers of the Orange International Street Fair found out I was there, they introduced me along with all the other Orange City Council members and made certain to give a shout out that how much they appreciated that Villa Park came out to support. So that was kind of fun too. So that's my report. Thank you.
Councilman Pitts.
Thank you, Mayor. I too attended the e-bike seminar at the high school. I was unable to attend the other one because I was at a sanitation district meeting. But I also attended Bill Tarrin's retirement party, and I have to say I'm really going to miss him a lot. He's done a lot for this city, and I really do appreciate everything he did. He guided me through a lot of my projects at my house, and as I said several times, I was always scared to death of him, but I do truly respect him and really, and really appreciate everything he did for us. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I previously mentioned the e-bike meeting, town hall, but I also had, on behalf of the Orange County Fire Authority, as the Chair Emeritus, the opportunity to attend a lunch meeting with Chief Fennessy and current Chair O'Neill and the Vice Chair to talk about personnel-related matters. And given the fact that they are personnel-related matters, I can't talk about it further, but it was a pleasure to get together and meet with them and talk about the future of OCFA and the Chief's future and how we fit into that equation. It was truly an honor. So that's all I have. I'd like to thank everybody for their reports and their dedication to our city. And I, too, would like to encourage everybody to please attend the candidates forum tomorrow night and listen to what everybody has to say. Please vote. After that, we have nothing further but an adjournment. We will now adjourn until next regular city council meeting on October 22nd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you for participating this evening. Have a good evening and stay safe.